You let us know who you are and what it is you do for a living.
My name is Korda, and I'm a serial offender in finding new talent, making new records, breaking new acts and running new music companies.
Why do you think you've ended up enjoying your career in independent music particularly?
I think fundamentally because I work really hard, I'm surrounded by really good people. We question everything, we look at things culturally, we look at how the music vibrates and resonates rather than just how it sells. I think in the context of working with young, new, creative, aesthetic people, we surround ourselves with talent. We have the resources around us, we work out where the resources are and we travel towards those. So we're a lovely combination of solid experience, professional experience in the music business, together with very good budgets, together with a very good address book, together with having probably made every single mistake that's possible to make in the history of the entire music industry. So we take all of those factors together, and BMG's money and our talent, and we make great music that we evangelise and gospel about internationally and all around the world.
An impossible question, I'm afraid, but how would you define Infectious's culture, unique identity as opposed to any other label out there?
Well, in my head with Infectious for the last 5 years, I've been building an imaginary soundtrack to Blade Runner. So the whole principle of Infectious is what would happen if you walked out of the little yellow taxi as the dummy drives the taxi in the rain as the bodies go through the window in Blade Runner. What would the record label look like? What kind of music company would there be in the Blade Runner atmosphere and the Blade Runner environment? Obviously, with Blade Runner, there's a lot of mythology about all the companies that were on the billboards that all went bust, and everybody kind of said if you're associated with Blade Runner, your business is not in a good, healthy shape. So we decided to attack that head on, and we decided trying to design a unique and special music company that's fit for purpose in the digital age. That's not focused on the old supply chain manufacturing process into a distributed retail environment that's only open 6 hours a day. We want as many touchstones online as we can. We want to be a cyber label. We are a cyber label, and the context really aesthetically is, in my head, all the artists on Infectious need to live and breathe within the Blade Runner soundtrack album that I'm imaginarily building in my head.
You're known for a lot of things, Infectious. Started off with Temper Trap. Now we've moved through Drenge and Superfood, and we'll come on to
Local Natives.
We'll come on to DMAs and Local Natives shortly. But there is one act, probably that towers above all other at the moment, for the cultural impact alone. I just wanted, because I've heard you tell this story before, but I love it. How did you come to sign Old J ahead of any of the major labels on Kensington High Street?
Well, I had a relationship with the manager, Tav. He managed a band called Ash, who was signed to Infectious version 1 in the 90s when we were an independent company after I left RCA. We had a phenomenal success with Ash. Ash was a great example where we did a 5-album deal and we saw all 5 albums through the system. He then went on and had a huge success managing the Teen Teams and a number of other artists. He had a big deal with a new act with Universal, which didn't work. He didn't really like Warner's. After I'd left Warner's and some of the problems with the catalogues that were there, and he'd been mucked about with Sony and the Tin Tins. So he found this amazing new band that I'd heard he'd found. I sent my scout down to see them. They came back raving. I phoned Tav up. Tav sent me a link to 3 songs. Those 3 songs were Tessellé, Matilda and Breeze Blocks. I sent those 3 songs home to my kids at home. The 3 kids were at home that evening. I went out and bought dinner, went home. By the time I got home with dinner, they all went, Dad, 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 this band are amazing, these songs are amazing, you've got to sign it, it's brilliant. I listened to them, because I do, they're well trained. I talked to Tav, I fell in love with the songs straight away. Him and I couldn't really arrange or agree any kind of deal because we know each other too well and we're dear friends. I said it would make sense to go and see them. They had a gig in the Diary at the Heavenly Social the following week. On the Tuesday I went and saw them in Cambridge. We sat down for an hour or 2. 8 hours later we got up. We talked through record labels, managers, promotions, publishing, the business, art, creativity, what made Floyd still relevant 40 years later, what made Radiohead relevant 20 years later, the context of ethereal music. we had a really good conversation. I came back from that knowing I wanted to sign them. They made the decision that evening that they wanted to sign to me. Tav and I talked about it the following day. So we got the lawyers in a room that Thursday, Friday. We agreed the deal on the Monday. The gig was on the Tuesday. So we signed the gig that Tuesday afternoon after the sound check. That gig that night had 22 major record, all the record companies and everybody in the business going to see them. And I'd managed to sign them in the afternoon, whip them off the market and then disappear so that nobody knew. I was actually cowering in the corner in case anybody found us. And it was a beautiful story, and it was all done for the right reasons, in the right way, at the right time, for the right price with the right vibe.
And no one's ever heard of them since?
And now everyone's heard of them, and 1.2 million albums later, 4 Brits nominations, 2 Brits nominations this year, Mercury Award-winning prize, sold out O2, sold out Square Gardens, 82,000 people over the next 4 weeks in Europe, nearly 500,000 on a new album in 16 weeks, phenomenal success. Fundamentally amazing musicians, lovely people, managed really well, a team of professionals, crazy enough to know that we don't know. Very digital heavy campaign.
Yeah.
We unlocked the doors to the gatekeepers with force and force majeure online, that they couldn't have a subjective decision of whether they liked the record or not, because the reaction and the numbers and the stats and the aesthetic around the band was so strong, they had no option other than to play it. And they played it, and when they played it, people loved it, and then they went and bought it.
And is that perhaps a great example of why you don't need it, if you're an ambitious band, you don't necessarily need a major label 2015?
I don't think necessarily need I think the difference between major labels and independent labels are getting blurred as we speak. I passionately believe that all artists, if they're serious about being successful, need a team of people around them. You can call them a management company, a production company, a publishing company, a record company, but it's not really good for the artists themselves to send the records and talk to radio and media. It's not really good for them to talk to the journalists, and ultimately, if they're great artists, they need to concentrate on being great artists, on making great art, on making great music, on promoting it and creating as much vibe and as much interest in their music. And therefore, to do it properly, you need a really good team of focused people and some investment around you to create the impression of success, which everybody will follow, and then you will be successful.
Another quick word on new beginnings with BMG. How's it been since the takeover in inverted commas?
Well, we took the brave decision to sell the company Infectious to BMG, and then Infectious will become the frontline label of BMG. It'll allow me access to greater resources to grow the business. They're a lovely company. I spent 10 years with RCA at the beginning of my career that were owned by BMG, so I know the DNA and the cut of their jib. They're very good people. Alexei, who runs the London office, Hartwig, who runs the German international worldwide office, with Fred and Monique. They're clever, they're smart, they get it. And the artist services model with BMG means that the artists take 75% of the income. We take 25%, which is very different from the traditional major models, where they'll take 80% of the income and leave the artists with a 20% royalty, which they then discount with something called package introductions, so it means that the artists only end up with a 10% royalty. So we're trying to be more transparent, we're trying to be flexible, we're trying to be fluid, we're trying to have a different approach rather than just product in a system. We're trying to be and live and breathe online, and we're trying to make amazing things with amazing people that can achieve amazing results.
You're a man who loves every single one of his artists, so this is going to be a very tough question. But could you just tell us about 2 or 3 highlights we can look forward to from Infectious in 2015?
Well, I've just signed what I think is one of the best bands I've ever signed, a band from Australia called the DMAs. Every Mancunian band rolled into one with 3 amazing singers and another 3 amazing musicians. They're absolutely brilliant. I'm so passionate about them. The songs are fantastic. So we signed that this week. We're making the record now. We'll have that ready for the summer. So I think in terms of new signings, DMAs are definitely really important. I think the other signing is about We Are the Ocean, which we're working on now. We're just re-signing Local Natives, a new album from them. And in truth, I love all my acts, and it's like asking a father to say which child they prefer. They're all brilliant. They've all got their own unique character. Some are big, some are small, some are colourful, some are shy. They're all amazing. We work with them because they're amazingly talented, and they're very creative artists. Whether it's Joe and Gus and Tom from Alt J, or Jack from His New Puritans, or whoever the individuals are, Rye from The Acid. They're strong characters, and we love working with them all. If I was to choose a favourite over the years, I signed a little three-piece from Tinmouth in Devon when they were 17. They became Muse. That's an important signing for me career-wise. I also found and signed an amazing song that I just fell in love with after the first play. Signed that to Warner's. That became became the biggest song of the year. And that was a song called Crazy, Niles Barkley. And I suppose there's a dear place in my heart for the first band I've had success with, which was a band called the Blow Monkeys. Digging Your Scene, which was a hit in the mid-80s. And that was a top 10 in America, top 10 in England. It was my first big success. So I suppose career-wise, those three artists are really important. And on Infectious, all the artists are important, but the new one, DMAs, is really important.
And then final question, what frustrates you about the modern music industry, but perhaps more importantly, what's the thing that excites you most about the modern music industry?
I get frustrated with the modern music industry about the cynicism of the transition from physical into digital, and the process of being concerned about change. And the record industry's always had change, from sheet music to vinyl to cassette to CD to ringtones to downloads to streaming. You have to embrace change. If you embrace the change, manage the change, work with the change, don't be scared of it, it can present and bring tremendous rewards. And for the last 10, 15 years, the old white men in the record industry who didn't believe it was like that in their day, and they missed the whole concept of Woolworths and retail and selling in, and it's an entirely different business. And unfortunately, things change, and that's what happens. So it's so easy to be cynical. It's very hard to be positive all the time and to be as helpful as you can and to try and make a difference. So those are the things that I really love doing. I love working with new talent. I love finding new talent in all its encompasses. I like finding new staff, new talent scouts, new tape ops, new engineers, new tour managers, new producers, new accountants. It's all about fresh and new. And that's how, after 35 years of being in the business, I still have that enthusiasm, because that's my core process, is looking for great things, great people, great music, and then trying to evangelise and gospelise and spread the message and spread the word in as articulate and true and faithful fashion as I possibly can.
Korda Marshall, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.